Hi, third graders. I am so happy to continue learning about our nonfiction books with you. Last week with Mrs. Whitson, you got to learn about many different text features. Those text features help you learn more while reading your nonfiction book. Remember, we read nonfiction books to learn. We are reading to learn. This week, I'm going to connect back to what you learned last week about text features and teach you about another important, in fact, crucial part of your nonfiction books. That word crucial means it's so important, so listen up. Let me share my screen. Okay. So again, like I said, we're reading to learn. I have some examples of different nonfiction books so that you can visualize what those nonfiction books might look like. It'll be important for you to identify what a nonfiction book looks like. And I have a couple right here next to me too, a couple examples. So again, last week we learned what the purpose of nonfiction texts are. We also learned about text features. We learned what text features can teach us too. So we didn't just learn what text features are called, we learned what their purpose was. And this week, our learning target is that we can find the main idea of our books. You are going to hear that word so often, main idea. That's another important part of our nonfiction texts. The fun thing is that those text features that you learned about last week can help you figure out and help you understand what the main idea is. We'll talk more about that later. So what is the main idea anyways? The main idea is the who and the what of the book or a section of the book. We have to ask, what is the text mostly about? So the main idea is what the book is mostly about. And how you say what the book is mostly about and how you understand is what the book is mostly about is by thinking, who is the main topic of this book and what are they doing? Like I said, the who and what is important. Think back to when we learned about how to summarize. Not every single small detail in our book was important to restate, but the summary said what the book was mainly about. The main idea in nonfiction is kind of like this. That who, when we're thinking about the who in our nonfiction books, it's a little more complicated. The who of our nonfiction books is not necessarily a person. When I hear the word who, I often think of a person. We are going to train ourselves to think about what the topic would be. Who is the topic? It sounds kind of funny, but what I mean is that who doesn't mean a person necessarily. Who could be flowers, planets, soccer players, or sharks. A who could be animals or other objects. The who is the main topic of the book. So planets could count as the who. Even though that sounds a little funny, we're used to the who being a person. The who can now be the topic. And the what is what the book is teaching you about. It's more specific details. Look at my Soccer Like a Pro nonfiction book here from Sports Illustrated. It says, play soccer like a pro. Key skills and tips. So the what is not going to just be soccer. It would be soccer like a pro. Soccer is the who. Like a pro would be the what. This book is about playing soccer like a pro. Who and the what put together makes the main idea. The who and the what is the main idea. It's not just soccer. It's not just playing like a pro. It's soccer playing like a pro. Put together the who, which is soccer, and the what, which is how to play like a pro. How to play soccer like a pro. Put them together. They're both important parts when forming that main idea. A hint on that. If you're saying the main idea, it should not just be a word. It shouldn't just be soccer. It should be a full sentence. You have a who and a what to make a full sentence. This is very important to keep in mind. Sometimes different parts in nonfiction books have different main ideas, and this is why they're split up in sections so nicely by the table of contents, titles, and headings like you learned about last week with Mrs. Whitson. I'm going to stop my share just for a moment so I can show you what I mean. This book, we would be able to find the main idea and details of this whole book, but we could also zoom in and find the main idea and details of each section, and each section is outlined here. So I can tell that this is one section because of the heading. I could find the main idea of just this section, and it would be more specific than the main idea of the whole book. You will be learning how to find the main idea of the whole book as well as each section inside. I'll go back to sharing my screen. Again, to restate, there's the main idea of the whole book and the main idea of each chapter or section. Don't forget about pictures, keywords, titles, and headings to think about what your main idea might be. All of these text features that you learned about are almost saying, hey, look at, this is the main idea. It highlights things for you. It wants to teach you things. They want to teach you things. This is a picture of what you worked on last week with Mrs. Whitson. Now, here, I see that title, What Do Gorillas Eat? Well, that already clues me into what the main idea might be about. I would have to keep reading to find out, though. Same with the heading. Here, we're looking at not the whole book, but the main idea for this section. Like I said, we've done something similar with Indian shoes in our past unit. We could summarize about what happened in each chapter by being more specific, but we could also get the main idea of the whole book by talking about the big events in the whole book. We can zoom into each chapter, or we could talk about the whole book. The main idea of the whole book would be that Grandpa Half Moon and Ray solve many problems together. The details could come from across the whole book instead of just in one section. We also do something similar to finding the main idea of books when we organize, categorize, or sort. I always like to sort my materials into different sections with different labels. And I think to myself, okay, what do all of these things have in common? Okay, I want to give you an example of that. I have a ruler, some Unifix cubes, and a 100s piece. I'm thinking to myself, what do all of these items have in common? Just like I would be thinking if I was reading my book, What do all of these things have in common? What's the main idea? What do all of these things have in common? They are all math tools. That's kind of like our main idea. Finding a main idea is like sorting or organizing into different piles. A ruler is a math tool. A Unifix cube is a math tool. A 100s piece is a math tool. All of these are math tools. I couldn't just say tools. That wouldn't be enough. It's math tools. That's the main idea. Sorting is like finding the main idea. You find what all of the items have in common. Now, I want to show you how we can read a book and decide what the main idea is based on what the book is mostly about. Okay, I have my book on pollination. Let me go back to the beginning here. That was silly. So my book on pollination. I could find the main idea of the whole book, or I could find the main idea of one of the sections. Let's start by finding the main idea of one of the sections. Now this section you see is on teamwork. These 2 pages are on teamwork. I know that because, well, that's what the heading says. That's what this says right here. Let's read. Teamwork, muscle and bone, fish and water, milk and cookies. Some of the best things in life depend on each other. Well, milk and cookies may not depend on each other, but most plants and a lot of insects do. They need each other to survive. New plants don't just decide to grow one day. They need to help get things started. That is where insects come in. Wind and water help too. They make it possible for most plants to grow new plants. Okay, so I'm thinking to myself, the main idea is that animals and plants use teamwork. And I got that from my heading and all of the details. All of those details are about how animals and plants use teamwork. On both pages, I read the whole section. And that's how I came up with the main idea of that section and the details that support it. And we're going to talk more about those details. Let me go back. I want to show you how we would organize this. Plants and animals work together to pollinate. That could be our main idea. And then I'd put details. Details that I read to support that main idea. Friends, it will be so important for you to be really thinking critically about what the main idea is and how you got the main idea. This week, we are going to talk about many different ways to find that main idea. So I need you to remember what you learned from each day because it's going to build upon each other. And then Friday, we are going to find main ideas and supporting details. You'll learn all of the different ways to help make that main idea as great as it could be.